The U.S. Coast Guard had eyes on a target that wasn't supposed to be seen. A low-profile, high-speed boat tearing through the Pacific under the cover of night, flying no flag, running no lights, with a crew betting everything on stealth and speed. It wasn't just a smuggler's routine gamble. This was a $40 million payload of cocaine hurtling toward the black market, an entire cartel operation packed into a fiberglass shell moving at 50 knots, trying to vanish into the dark. But the ocean isn't what it used to be, at least not for traffickers.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
That night, overhead, an HC-13J aircraft circled silently. Its infrared sensors lit up the engine heat like a flare on a black canvas. Electro-optical systems tracked every movement. Communications fed real-time intelligence to U.S. Coast Guard cutters, helicopters, and a coordinated team already locking in. This wasn't chance, it was choreography, and the boat below had no idea it had already lost. This is what modern interdiction looks like: layered, methodical, and mercilessly efficient. While the smugglers clung to tactics of the past: low visibility, high speed, and blind hope, the Coast Guard leaned on integration, aerial surveillance, real-time tracking, and a surface fleet converging from distance. The target had been identified hours earlier, catalogued as stateless and non-compliant. What followed wasn't just pursuit, it was containment. From the air, the MH-65E Dolphin helicopter closed in, agile, fast, and equipped with serious stopping power. Aboard it, the Coast Guard's helicopter interdiction tactical squadron Hitron was already in position. Their mission was precise: disable, board, and seize, not destroy, unless necessary. Rules of engagement were clear, but if the smugglers refused to stop, the outcome would be the same. Below, the boat refused to yield. No radio response, no identification, just more speed, more desperation. That's when the Barrett M107 .50 caliber rifle came out. Mounted and stabilized, the Hitron marksman took aim not at people, but at propulsion, engine components, the heart of the boat's flight. With surgical precision, one by one, those engines were taken offline. Controlled shots, no chaos, no warning fire, just the exact amount of force required to bring the vessel to a halt, alive, intact, and surrounded. Disabling a moving vessel from a helicopter at night isn't movie action, it's coordination, training, and absolute control. It's the product of years of refining tactics that prioritize safety while still delivering results. And it worked. Within seconds, the go-fast boat stopped, silent in the water, smoke rising from the disabled engines. Crew on board, hands up, realizing the end had arrived, not with sirens but with silence and a spotlight. That's when the boarding team moved in. From the Coast Guard cutter Kimball, fast boats were already en route. Trained boarding officers approached swiftly, fully aware of the risk. But this wasn't a shootout. It didn't need to be. The operation had already been decided in the sky. On board, they found what they expected: an unmarked vessel, packed with tightly wrapped bricks of cocaine. Over $40 million worth. No manifest, no national registration, no legal claim. Stateless and illegal in every definition. The crew was detained, the evidence logged, the mission far from over. Because the boat wasn't going back to shore. Under the Coast Guard's legal authority, stateless vessels suspected of smuggling can be destroyed after seizure. And that's exactly what happened. The vessel was intentionally sunk, eliminated, not just intercepted. No chance for reuse, no chance for recovery, no asset returned to the cartel. One less tool in their supply chain. This part of the operation is as strategic as the interception itself. Destruction of the vessel serves a purpose. It's a message. No impound lot, no delayed legal wrangling, just permanent removal. And it's not just about one boat. This operation was part of a broader campaign across 2025, one that's resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of narcotics seized. Not in ports, not on land, but at sea, where the perception of impunity is fading fast. Because traffickers may have the water, but the Coast Guard has the sky. The HC-13J surveillance aircraft that tracked this vessel didn't just spot it, it knew what to look for. Heat signatures, water spray patterns, radar anomalies. These aren't guesses, they're data points. And once the profile fit, it was already too late. This level of surveillance and coordination isn't accidental. It's designed. A deliberate fusion of sensor technology, long-range communication, and rapid deployment units. It creates a closed system where fleeing is no longer a viable plan.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
And the rules? They're just as calculated. The use of disabling fire isn't trigger-happy, it's technical. Engine strikes preserve the crew. They maintain evidence. They reduce the risk of escalation. And they reflect a discipline that traffickers never expect from armed helicopters dropping out of the night. That's what makes these operations so effective. Precision, not power, wins the day. The message here is clear. Darkness and speed are no longer advantages. The tools that once gave traffickers an edge now expose them. In the past, a boat like this could vanish before anyone got close. Now, it's identified, tracked, disabled, and seized before it even hits its drop point. The larger takeaway is even more sobering for criminal networks. The ocean is no longer theirs. What was once viewed as lawless space, international waters, miles from any authority, is now under coordinated, multi-layered surveillance. The Coast Guard, using assets like the Kimball, the HC-130J, and Hitron units, has turned vast stretches of ocean into controlled territory. And it's not just about seizing drugs. It's about dismantling networks. Every boat taken down disrupts a supply line. Every seizure costs millions. Every arrest opens legal pathways to trace funding, expose operatives, and build larger cases. These aren't one-off victories, they're part of a system-wide pressure campaign designed to collapse criminal logistics from the outside in. So when a cartel vessel flees at night, they're not outrunning one patrol, they're entering a net. A net of technology, training, and teamwork that stretches across the Pacific and narrows by the hour. This is where modern maritime security is headed: layered enforcement, precise targeting, and absolute commitment to law and order on the high seas. Traffickers may adapt, but so does enforcement. And the gap between them, it's closing fast. Hit like if you're tracking these operations and want to see more real-world takedowns. Share this with anyone who still thinks smugglers control the ocean. And drop a comment, do you think this kind of interdiction changes the game for international trafficking? And subscribe, because next we're breaking down the largest fentanyl seizure off the coast of Florida and how a decoy fishing vessel turned into one of the most revealing cartel busts of the year. Let's keep going, because what happened in the Pacific isn't just a one-off. It's part of a bigger picture, one that's changing how we understand control, power, and risk in international waters. When the U.S. Coast Guard tracked, intercepted, and dismantled a cartel run-go-fast boat loaded with $40 million worth of cocaine, it didn't just remove contraband from circulation. It exposed a system, one that's been evolving in the shadows for decades. Cartels have long depended on the vastness of the ocean to run their operations. That illusion of safety, of distance, of ungoverned space, it's disappearing. And this operation proved it. Let's be blunt. The cartel didn't make mistakes on that boat. They ran their playbook perfectly. No flag, no lights, no transponder, maximum speed, concealed cargo, stateless registration. These are the best practices of maritime trafficking. They were counting on speed and darkness. But none of that mattered. The game has changed. The Coast Guard wasn't just chasing, they were waiting. The HC-130J aircraft overhead didn't just happen to find the vessel. It was already scanning that corridor based on intelligence, prior movements, and behavioral analysis. The sensors didn't just track the boat, they picked up anomalies, heat patterns, spray trails, engine noise that didn't match normal maritime activity, from miles away, in the dark. And once the hit was confirmed, it wasn't a question of if they'd catch the boat, it was when and how precisely. That's what traffickers are facing now. A tactical wall. A multi-pronged system that doesn't rely on luck or proximity but on coordinated escalation. Aircraft for surveillance. Cutters for endurance. Helicopters for precision. Boarding teams for seizure. It's not just layered, it's adaptive. Each component feeds into the other. And it leaves very little room for escape. When that helicopter dropped down and fired the Barrett .50 cal, it wasn't spraying rounds in the dark. It was trained disabling fire. Hitting the engine block, targeting propulsion with pinpoint accuracy. The crew wasn't harmed. The vessel wasn't destroyed in a firefight. It was brought to a controlled stop alive, intact, and caught. And that matters, because operations like this are about more than stopping one boat. They're about demonstrating control. A show of force that's rooted in restraint. That's what makes the impact even deeper, because cartels aren't just smuggling drugs, they're running logistics. Global supply lines. Every seized boat is a broken link. Every detained crew is a lost investment. and every vessel destroyed is a setback that costs real money and time. That's why this particular boat was destroyed at sea. Once the evidence was secured and the crew detained, the decision to burn and sink it wasn't just about eliminating a hazard, it was a tactical statement. No recovery, no reuse, no salvage mission. Gone. And under maritime law, the U.S. had the authority to do it. Stateless vessels, those without any national registration, no flag, no documentation, are not protected by diplomatic cover. Once interdicted, they're fair game for destruction. And in a case like this, where the vessel was clearly part of a criminal network, the decision was easy. But it's not just about flexing jurisdiction. It's about creating consequences. Smugglers rely on repeatability. A single boat can be used over and over to move product. The same routes, the same crews. Over time, the profits stack. So when that cycle is broken, when the boat is permanently removed, it creates disruption, uncertainty, risk, and risk is the one thing these operations can't afford. That's why interdictions like this one hit so hard. They're clean, decisive, and irreversible. There's no courtroom loophole for a sunk vessel, no bribed port official to retrieve a seized boat from impound. Just the deep ocean, swallowing the investment. And the message spreads, because every cartel watches what happens when one of their boats gets taken. They study it, they recalibrate, and that's exactly the point. The broader impact here is psychological. These operations rewrite the rules. They change how traffickers plan routes. They shift investment away from maritime channels, and they force networks to take bigger risks on land, where surveillance is tighter and anonymity is harder to maintain. This isn't just about law enforcement keeping up, it's about shifting the balance. And right now, that balance is moving toward control. The success of this operation also points to a much bigger shift in how the U.S. handles transnational crime. It's not just about patrols or reacting to tips. It's about integration, data-driven analysis, real-time surveillance, and an ecosystem of assets that can track, intercept, and act faster than traffickers can pivot. And it's working. In 2025 alone, the U.S. Coast Guard has seized hundreds of millions in narcotics, much of it through maritime interdictions like this. The tactics are consistent: surveillance, confirmation, disabling, seizure, and destruction. Each step legal, each step deliberate, and each one impossible to counter once it's in motion. That's the most important takeaway here. The smugglers never had a chance. From the moment that aircraft picked them up, the operation was already in phase 2. They didn't even know it. The dark water they thought would protect them was actually what made them visible. The silence they relied on made the engines easier to isolate. The speed they trusted gave them nowhere to hide. In short, the very tactics they thought would save them were exactly what led to their capture. So where does this go next? If the U.S. continues refining this approach, and all signs point to that, it's going to get even harder for smugglers to operate in open waters. Aircraft will get better sensors. Communication will get faster. AI and machine learning will start playing bigger roles in anomaly detection. And the gap between cartel tactics and Coast Guard capability will only widen. That doesn't mean smuggling will stop, but it does mean the cost will keep rising. And when the risk outweighs the reward, operations dry up, routes shift, and enforcement wins not by brute force, but by attrition and adaptation. And that's exactly what's happening now. If you're following this kind of operation closely, you know how rare this level of coordination used to be. Now, it's standard. And every success builds momentum. Every bust increases capability. Every seizure adds another data point to refine the next operation. So yes, the boat was fast. Yes, it was dark. And yes, they were desperate. But none of that matters anymore. Because the message is clear. The ocean is no longer safe for traffickers. Not when technology, training, and tactical patience come together like this. Let's take it all the way to the end, because if there's one thing this operation made brutally clear, it's this. The era of the go-fast boat running wild on the high seas is coming to a close. Cartels have relied on these vessels for years. Sleek, fast, and almost invisible to the naked eye at night, they've become a trademark of maritime drug smuggling. They're built for speed over stability, stealth over safety. For a long time, they worked. But now, the tech, the tactics, and the teams chasing them are just too good. The risk is finally outpacing the reward. The U.S. Coast Guard proved that in one of the most tightly coordinated interdictions in recent memory. You had a stateless, unlit, high-speed smuggling vessel barreling through the Pacific with over $40 million in cocaine. And yet, the moment it appeared on sensors, the clock started ticking, and not in their favor. From aerial surveillance to airborne interdiction, the response wasn't just fast. It was surgical. That HC-13J aircraft overhead wasn't just taking blurry photos from miles away, it was relaying real-time thermal images, trajectory data, and positional information to every asset in the response chain. And when the go-fast boat tried to slip away under the assumption that darkness and distance were still enough, that's when the MH-65E Dolphin helicopter locked in. And let's talk about that moment, the actual disablement. There's something surreal about watching a moving boat get shut down mid-ocean with just a few well-placed shots. No crash, no explosion. Just the roar of 3 engines sputtering out one after another as a sniper on a moving helicopter calmly squeezes the trigger of a .50 cal rifle. That kind of precision doesn't just happen. It's training, it's discipline, it's intent. And it worked flawlessly. Once the vessel was dead in the water, there was no fight, no panic, just quiet resignation. The boarding team approached. The drugs were seized. The crew was detained. And within hours, that go-fast boat, once part of a cartel's million-dollar pipeline, was sitting on the ocean floor, intentionally sunk to ensure it never moved another kilo. That's the difference now. This isn't reactionary enforcement. It's preventive dismantling. These operations don't just interrupt shipments, they destroy infrastructure. They raise assets. And more importantly, they send a very public, very clear signal. If you run, you'll be caught. If you're caught, you'll lose everything. This specific operation was also a prime example of how modern interdiction strategies aren't just aggressive, they're lawful, calculated, and strategically restrained. The Coast Guard didn't unload rounds into the hull. They didn't fire warning shots and escalate wildly. They went for the engines. Period. That's discipline. That's what rules of engagement are designed for, to use force in a way that preserves life while achieving the mission. The fact that the crew lived, the contraband was seized, and the vessel was neutralized without casualties, that's not luck. That's how the system is supposed to work. And the downstream buyers, they take note. Because every time a smuggling vessel is intercepted and destroyed, it doesn't just disrupt a single delivery. It injects uncertainty into the entire supply network. That's the real cost. Traffickers hate nothing more than unpredictability. It forces them to take longer routes, use more expensive methods, and stretch thinner margins. So yeah, this was one boat, but the ripple effect, massive. It's also worth pointing out how this operation fits into the broader strategy the US Coast Guard is executing right now. They're not trying to catch every vessel. They're focusing on strategic interdictions that maximize disruption. Smart targeting, based on data and intelligence, allows them to punch way above their weight in terms of impact. And it's working. Like this, if you respect how this kind of strategy changes the entire game. Share it with someone who thinks maritime drug smuggling is untouchable. And comment below, should more countries follow this model of aggressive but disciplined oceanic interdiction? And subscribe, because next up, we're taking a look at how a narco submarine was spotted by a cargo ship, and what happened when it surfaced will blow your mind. You'll want to be here for that one. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.